to bed, look myself in the mirror. Have I done everything I can today to be better tomorrow? And then no matter what happened, if I hadn't gone on to play for England, hadn't gone on to play for Everton, Man City, I still think I could have been proud of what I'd done because I'd reached my potential through hard work. So, yeah, probably a little bit of everything, I would say.
Obviously, we sit now and the women's game from when you started, Jill, has come on leaps and bounds. But I think it's important to highlight that, you know, you and some of the other girls who have retired recently or over the last couple of years, enormous reasons why the game is where it is, right? And you probably won't give yourself enough credit, but the reason why the women's game is where it is now and obviously the Lionesses are so successful is because you have done what you've done in your career and those early, you know, we'll talk about your mindset and your ability to go after something that may or may not even be there is, you know, is incredible. And I want to, you know, I want that to lead on to sort of running out of time. I know you're incredibly busy, but recently Karen Brady was on the Diary of a CEO podcast, and one of the things that I took out of that, and it's actually something that me and my girlfriend spoken about, is that she said her introduction as a woman into the men's game at the time was a bit of a surprise. It said it took people, you know, a long time to accept her into the game. If I flip that now, obviously where the women's game is going, how can, you know, men and the men's game be a better ally to women in the women's game to see its progression continue?
I think I always speak about females in them roles and they're so inspirational, and I always say that by being visible, they've kind of give a whole new generation a dream to have. And when I wanted to play football, I couldn't actually see it. I couldn't really see like females being professional footballers, but I still had that dream. But imagine all them girls who see people in positions in football. It doesn't have to be playing, it can be refereeing, it can be coaching. And I think it just gives them this whole other dimension. I think in terms of the men's game, I don't think we've ever sat here and said every female should be a manager in the Premier League, everyone should be coaches, referees. I think it's just about equal opportunity. And if you're the best person for the job, give them the opportunity. You do hear stories in the past where people have been stopped because they're a female and it stopped their opportunity or their journey into football. And I was thinking about this on the way here. I'm like, isn't it mad how we say girls weren't meant to play football and they felt like they were the only girl and they couldn't play with the boys, and it was almost as if you weren't allowed to do it. And when you actually think about that now, it sounds ridiculous, but the reason it sounds ridiculous is because of how many girls now have the opportunity to play football. So I think men just kind of keep supporting the women's game. And you know what? Sometimes I feel like on the back of the Euros, there was a lot of talk about, oh, the men need to do it now. The women have shown them the way and all this stuff. And it's not about us competing with the men. The men were so... The men's team, Declan Rice, Kieran Trippier, Conor Cody, John Henderson, I could go through all of them. Like, so supportive of us before the Euros. They came and they give talks to us. They passed on advice of playing in a home Euros and all their kind of experiences they went through. So I kind of hate that direct comparison for so many different reasons. But I just think it's football, isn't it? And we can help each other. And I do think we're making massive strides forward in that department. You do hear of more females now with roles, and me now sitting here having retired, there's nothing I feel like I can't dream to do because I see people in them roles doing it. So I think for women that are doing that, you're a massive inspiration. Just keep going, and maybe you don't realise in your day-to-day work kind of how much of an inspiration and how much you kind of changing the dreams of the next generation, really.
I think, you know, we sit here now, Jill, obviously, and you're talking about the young girls having the opportunity to become professional footballers and seeing that pathway that maybe you didn't have when you were a child, and that's there because of you. You know, how do you think you'll ever be able to spend the time and look back and you know, realise and give yourself the credit for how much you've done for the women's game or not?
I think I'd like to think I have contributed, like a lot of the players. Obviously, there was a whole generation before me. A lot of my very good friends. I speak about that kind of when I first entered the England team, and I speak about them players like Rachel Brown, Lindsay Johnson, Laura Bassett, Karen Carney. They were a whole other generation. Obviously, Karen Carney went on to... She was just a great player at a young age, so she was in that generation even though she was still very young. But them players played, they had dual jobs. Some of them didn't even get paid at all for playing for England. So there's that whole generation before us, which I am so thankful for making my journey a bit easier. And then hopefully the next generation will look at my journey, Ellen White's journey, Farrah Williams, and maybe think their journey's a little bit easier. So it just makes us happy, to be honest. I don't want a big pat on the back or anything like that. I'm like, if we've contributed less than 1% to a younger girl now having an easier journey in anything, whether it's football, whether it's something in life, whether it's another sport, I think that's just what makes us happier, that it's in a better place. Speaking about Wembley, 90,000 at that Euros final, all them girls, boys, like, people will come up now and they'll say, oh, can you just do a little video for my daughter? She came to the final. She was inspired by the Lionesses. She bought a pair of football boots at Christmas. Well, she didn't. Santa brought them. But the fact that them things are happening, I'm like, it's just so pleasing. And yeah, it's not really about, obviously it's great to reflect and see how far we've come, but just look at the future with a smile, really.
No, well said, Jill. Finally, just my last, I want you to put your coaching hat on just for the last question. Is what do you think, in your opinion, is the most important attribute to have if you're going to make a good career out of the game?
Oh, that's a very good question. Well, for me, sat here, I'm going to say hard work on. I think just having a good attitude every single day in training, not cutting corners, and kind of, always willing to listen as well. And by saying listening to your coaches, I used to challenge the coaches as well, but in the right way. So maybe after a session, if there was something I didn't understand, just sitting down and going, I didn't agree with this part of the session today. And then they would sit down, maybe go through it a little bit more with us. And it's okay to have an opinion in the right way. Make sure you're not kicking off in the middle of training. But yeah, I think just having that attitude and making sure that, you know what, we're part of a team sport. It's not just about you, your journey. If you've got a good attitude, you'll make your own journey, and there'll be coaches along the way, managers who sometimes give you an opportunity, sometimes take it away, but it's how you react in them moments. So yeah, just make sure that you listen, you challenge people if you have to in the right way, but always have that hard work and good attitude.